some people to join back in.
Tyson loves killing Mojo.
I'm not. I don't get along well with tech. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Hey Jack, as you jump back into your story, I am kind of curious to hear about your demographic of recruits. Just knowing, you as a younger single guy, if you could kind of speak to, what the diversity or, what your team looks like.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I would say recruiting and building a client base are much the same, right? There's going to be people that are in better markets than other people, right? And so as much as I'm trying to work my way up into a better qualified market in my own personal business, so working with less people that are my age that are just starting out trying to get into the married with kids market or the pre-retiree retirement red zone market, I'm trying to do the same thing from a recruiting standpoint. So obviously you start with familiar to you. I would say a lot of my team is kind of that younger demographic, right? And I'm starting to work my way up now just through tap rooting. People are a little bit older, right? So started with people that are my age. Now I got a couple people that are late 20s, early 30s. I recruited one guy that was in his early 40s, and essentially, again, you're still looking for the same stuff. Like a client, is a client in the right market? Is a recruit in the right market? You know, that's going to be more beneficial. But also, you never know, right? So in the same way that you would say someone that was a little bit older, it might be in a more qualified market. That might be true, but there's a lot of people that are really, really successful in this business. Tyson, Josh, that started when they were young too. So it's hard to pick what demographic is going to be the best. It's more about I think the traits of the person. Does that answer your question, or is that just a really rambly version of a
No, I think if I'm speaking on behalf of our entire team, we've seen, you know, maybe struggles going after the younger people who just don't have enough life experience that is going to dissatisfy them enough to look at this opportunity. And so, I didn't know if there's something that you're seeing in these younger people relative to their view on the world, what kind of feedback you're getting from these recruits that are saying yes to
I
you.
got you. I got you. Understood. Yeah. So I would say you're going to run into that problem in the younger market. Like if you, it's going to be a lot of volume and low numbers for sure. You'll find people that are an outlier, but you'll probably, you know, the best way to do this is organically because you can screen a lot of that out. Like if you go to like a college career fair or something like that, you're probably going to talk to 20 people.
Mhm.
You might AMA one or two, and there's a 40% chance that one of those people sticks and does something. It just is what it is. So I think that getting into more of like that warm market, like my best recruits have been referrals of people, or taproting through a team. Like, hey, I bring somebody in and maybe they're not the guy, but they've introduced me to somebody that has been more productive. Does that make sense? Yeah, but if you get in those younger markets like that, you're just gonna have to run more volume because you're right. They don't have a lot of life experience, excuse me, and they just don't stick. They're not ready to embrace an entrepreneurial career. They got to go get kicked around a little bit on the corporate ladder. I would say something that does help is if you're recruiting somebody that's younger and they come from an entrepreneurial family structure in some way, that is a massive difference because they get it. That was like me. I came from a family of entrepreneurs. I've got in my immediate family probably 6 or 7 entrepreneurs. So that was always the direction I was going. But that's because I was exposed to it. That makes sense. Awesome. Do we have everybody back?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Those that are important.
Gotcha. All right. Lost my train of thought now. Let me move you guys. I got two monitors here. Okay. Yeah. So the interview process, and once you have somebody that at least has a commitment, right? We have an interview process. Everybody goes through the same interview process. Everybody asks the same questions. It's very systematized. Okay. And again, I'm not saying this is perfect yet, but it's made a night and day difference. So our first interview we do with people is just getting really to know them if we don't know them already. Right. So we'll show them, we might do a modified first presentation, kind of like you would a client presentation, but we'll throw in some statistics about 46% of the industry is going to retire in the next 11 years, the great wealth transfer, never been a better time, a little bit of that type of stuff, rationalization to getting into this career, but largely a client presentation. And really, in that first interview, we're just trying to make sure they're the right person for us. Do they have an interest in doing this? Is this something they would want to do and pursue? And then we're going to ask them a lot of your classic interview questions. Hey, tell us about you. What are your interests? Where do you see yourself in the future? What does your dream career look like? Are you a people person? You know, what are some of your professional and non-professional goals? All that kind of stuff. And the reasons behind that are, number one, again, you want to get to know them and see if they're a right fit. But number two, I'm hunting for hot buttons, right? If I ask somebody, you know, what their goals are in life, and they have a bunch of entrepreneurial big goals, well, that's great. That's something I'm looking for. I can go back and reference that later. Maybe if they say, hey, I want to be in a career where I can spend more time with my family, I'm in control of my schedule, I'm definitely going to hit on that later. You know, I want to identify the things that are important to these people. So when we start getting the dream selling portion of this, you're saying the right things, right? Because different people are going to have different pulls in this business. I think that's a mistake a lot of people make when they're trying to recruit people, is they tend to say, hey, here's why I'm in this business, here's why it's so great, and they'll try to project that onto other people, and that might not be why they want to do it, and you might lose somebody because of that, right? So you got to listen first. So and that's what all that first interview is, and you're getting a commitment. Okay. In the second interview, we actually get very, very detailed into what this all looks like. So that's kind of the nitty gritty. You know, we will start off a little bit. Like the first couple of questions we ask are, you know, what excited you the most about our previous conversation? Why do you want to work with us? Because I want them to start the interview with why they want to do this from frame of mind, right? But then we're going to get into the nitty gritty part of this. So we're going to talk about training. We'll talk about, you know, our office trainings and the regional stuff and conventions and field training and what all that looks like. We'll get into licensing, you know, timeline wise for licensing, costs for licensing, why we pay for our own licenses, the whole independence part of this, and being able to maintain control over your licensing. Um, you know, what they allow you to do and all that kind of stuff. We'll answer their questions there. We'll get into prospecting, right? How do we go out and find our clients? How we're going to help them get into the field. And we'll talk about, you know, there's a lot of ways to do this with the warm market and the cold market, and why in our industry, a lot of the cold market, cold calling, door knocking type stuff doesn't work. It has to be done naturally and organically, and how to go about doing that, you know, and the purpose here is, number one, to teach them about the business and what they're going to be getting into. But number two, if they have any objections, you want to get those out so you can address them and help them work through that. Right. So we'll talk about all the prospecting stuff. After each one of these steps, when we talk about training and prospecting and licensing, we always ask at the end, do you have any questions? Is that something you're comfortable with? Because you want to get that commitment, right? We'll get into, you know, compensation and how we get paid. I would say I use the ending part here, the compensation piece, is kind of my dream selling point. And based on whatever hot buttons or reasons they gave me in the first interview, this is where I'll talk about all those different parts. So I'll talk about how to get paid and all that kind of stuff. But if someone is very much motivated by having freedom of their schedule, I'll talk about why our compensation system allows for that, and what recurring income does for people and not being tied to a clock. If someone is very maybe entrepreneurial business minded, wants to do big things, I might talk about building briefly. I won't get into the nitty gritty of it, but I'll just talk about that as a path. Like I'm gonna adapt my conversation to whatever their hot buttons were, you know, to sell that dream a little bit, right? And then at the end, I'll close with a couple questions, you know, just things like, you know, based on what you know now, what excites you the most about the opportunity, and, you know, get all their objections out, what type of questions they have. Is anybody they would have to talk to before they can make a decision about pursuing a career like this? Just stuff like that. Closing interview questions, right? And what I'll do from there is I'll typically give, or what we will do from there. I keep saying we as in an office. I should be saying this is what we all do now. Is I'll give people a little while to actually think about all the stuff that we talked about. I think a mistake we made in the beginning is we would go through these interviews. It would just be like one to the next, to the next, to the next. Hey, we do the first interview, let's schedule the second. We do the second, let's schedule the third. Okay, let's AMA, let's get going. And I think people need a little bit of time to think about stuff. So I'll typically give them a weekend or a week to think about everything we talked about, and then I'll call them again. We'll set up a time for a phone call, and I'll go through everything again on that phone call and answer their questions and see what their interest is. After that, we do an SMD interview with Josh or me or whoever. And that person goes over and solidifies everything, asks a lot of the same questions, make sure they're still comfortable with everything, and does a little bit more dream selling. And then if somebody's in from that point, we typically will AMA them and get them off to a fast start. Okay. So our interview process is a 3-step process, 3-meeting process, where it's getting commitment, laying out the expectations, and doing dream selling. That's your goals there. You want to get someone excited. Okay. After that, I would say the most critical piece of this is getting somebody off to a good start, getting them off to a fast start. Because you can recruit all the great qualified people in the world, but if they come in and they don't do anything, you're not going to get anywhere. Okay. And that's another area of fall off that we had. We noticed that the people that we did recruit, they would not do much, right? Someone says they're going to do X, Y, and Z. They don't run a lot of meetings. They don't make any calls, and they make 2 or 3 calls, then they quit or whatever it is. Okay. So we have number one, like a fast start commitment that we talk about in the third interview. We have like a 30-day expectation, which is evolving a little bit, but basically in the first 30 days, you try to get people to commit to passing their insurance license, right? And then running 5 qualified appointments. That's our definition of a fast start with their trainer. Among some other things, actually obtaining the license and plugging into training and all that kind of stuff. But those are the 2 main things. Get your license. Let's run 5 appointments. And if they hit our fast start, we actually go through and we'll reimburse them their licensing costs. That's kind of like the carrot at the end of the fast start stuff, right? And if they don't, it's fine. But we that is something that we implemented to give people kind of incentive to go ahead and do that. All right. And I would say with fast starting people, the most important thing that we've learned over this year, because we've gone through a lot of changes, is in the beginning, as somebody's trainer, as their mentor, you really got to drive all of this. All right. You got to be the one, like when we set up weekly WAMs, whoever's training that person, we'll meet with them. We'll talk to them probably 3 times a week, but we'll meet with them at least once or twice. And we'll actually sit down with people. I'll help them order their study material. I'll help them walk through the study material. I'll help them schedule their tasks. And one thing that I changed that's been massive is those first 5 appointments I talked about. Not only do I help them actually build the list and qualify the list, I make the phone calls with them. We'll do it on Zoom together, and I'll help them qualify their list. And I'll say, hey, we're going to get together at this date. You're going to call these 5 people. And there's 2 reasons for that. Number one, they actually do it because I'm there with them. Number 2 is in the beginning, we've noticed that people in a controlled environment, they'll practice the script and they'll be good at it. But then when they go out and do it on their own, it just falls apart for whatever reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's just the nerves of doing it for the first time. But people will repeat a script back to me that we practiced amazing. And they go out and make a phone call and they fall apart and they get a bad result. I just did this with somebody new that I brought on where he repeated the script back to me perfectly. We went and we made the call and he went like way the heck out of bounds. I don't even know what he was saying. But just I was like, it was like watching a train wreck in slow motion, this guy on the phone, right? And I was able to coach him through that phone call, and we ended up scheduling the appointment. But I think had I not done that, he probably would have quit after that, because I sat down with him after and said, hey, here's what you did wrong. We got to do this better next time. Let's make another phone call together, say it like this, and we'll get a result. And he did, and we got a result, and he's still with me here today. So that's been the biggest change, is actually making those phone calls with your people and initiating the meeting. I would change that. I don't know if you guys listen to the Straight Line Thinkers podcast at all with Rich Stolley there. If you haven't, it's a really, really good podcast. There's a lot of good resources on there. And one of the things in his lessons that he talks about in the business is controlling the point of contact. Like, you bring somebody new in, you wouldn't have them run a first presentation on their own. You wouldn't have them run a BPM on their own. You wouldn't have them, pretty much do anything on their own. Yet, at least in our office, we were sending them out and say, hey, go schedule these meetings on their own. And we weren't getting results, and that's why. So that's one of the biggest changes we made, was really walking people through that first month and getting them on track. Okay. I would say that is a pretty good, like, 30-minute overview of what this looks like. I can get into some more detail here or there, but that's the system and the changes that we've made over the past year that's been working well. We're still tweaking it, but that's what's changed so far for us. So I guess I'll open up questions, comments, thoughts, that kind of thing.
Well, Jack, I think this has been awesome. It's very evident to me why you are having the success you are having. And I guess I have a couple thoughts of feedback for you. But one of my questions for you was, how many recruiting conversations do you think you are personally involved in per week or per month?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I need to we all do in our office need to get more, it needs to become more of a priority. Just with some of the bigger cases I've had hit this year, I've been very like, I get in a season where I do a lot of recruiting conversations and then I stop. And I do a lot of recruiting conversations and then I stop because I get this volume and it's good. I get all the volume out of my way and then I'm back to picking it up again. So I'm still working on how to negotiate that in my schedule. I have an assistant now, which should help. But anyways, I Tyson, it'd be really hard for me to give you a number just because it just changes so
Well,
much.
give
It
me a
fluctuates so
range
much.
on, like do it on like a monthly basis, and I'm including like your personal stuff, but also like your field training, just things you're involved in as the SMD for your base
Yeah,
shop. What's like a low month and what's like a great month?
I'd say a low month is if I only have two recruiting conversations. That would be a pretty low month for me between me and my team. I would
Yeah,
say a good month would be probably six plus
yeah.
conversations for me. That'll obviously changes in different seasons depending on what market that we're working in. Um, but yeah, I'd say 2 to 6 is where I am. It's just again, what month is it? I don't know.
Well, yeah, I hope our guys have some questions for you because I think this training has been dynamite. I've got several takeaways. I don't want to kind of take all the time here, but to me, I was writing something down as you were talking. I'm like, Jack is very clear on his scripting. He's very clear on his process, in terms of recruiting, and he's very clear on his value proposition. Why would somebody, take a look at our company, in terms of and then how to pivot that, how to customize that to a different type of prospect, right? Is it a more money-driven person, a more, time and flexibility driven person, a more kind of impact and significance driven person, or, and how would you rank those things? I think it's just very clear to me why you're attracting people, Jack, because I think you're coming across very genuine, but you're also very clear. Like it's very easy to follow you. It's very logical. You're not, I think sometimes when somebody's not clear, they just talk around in circles because they don't really know what they're saying.
Yeah,
And their prospect really doesn't know what they're saying. And they walk out being like, yeah, let me think about it. Sounds good. And then you never hear from them again. But I think you're crystal clear on what you guys are doing, and I think it's really showing. So congrats on that. It's really admirable.
yeah, I appreciate that, Tyson. I would say that the number one thing that changes is it just needs to be intentional. Like you should have a top 25 list for recruits. You don't have a top, you have a top 25 list for like all the stuff you're doing to prospect clients. Just do the same thing for recruits and make sure that it's on the same page of or whatever. It's in the same frame of mind. That you're constantly looking for those opportunities. It's a part of the business because it is like if you're participating in this model that we have, this business that we have, recruiting is just part of it. That's why we're in this business, right? You bought the system. I mean, I get it. It is one of the best places where you can serve your clients because we have all access to all these resources. That is true. But as far as for you, while you're here personally, you bought the system, or at least I hope you did. That would be the goal. Um, Otherwise, yeah, you get the point. So just make it intentional.
Anybody else have any thoughts?
Yeah, question I have. So I kind of have like already a nice qualified client base of people. I'm wondering as you've gotten more clear on your recruiting process, have you been like going back to clients and doing reviews to say, hey, you've already got your accounts with me, but I probably didn't even tell you that we can do this whole other thing in business and let me tell you about it. Is that something that you ever had done or did kind of everyone already know this side of our business?
Yeah, great question. So it's funny you said that because I just listened again to one of those Straight Line Thinkers podcasts there, and that's something that they talked about, and it hit me like, oh my god, I need to do that. Why am I not doing that? Right? I think your client base is an excellent place to do that. Right? Number one, you can always mention it. It's not a hard conversation. At the end of your review, when you're saying, hey, if you know of anybody, let them know about me. It's not hard to say, hey, by the way, I've also been empowered to build a team here at our company and stepping into a leadership role. If you know of anybody that could be XYZ, let me know about them. I'd love to have a conversation with them. And I think that the more specific you can be about what you're looking for, the easier it is for people to think of people to refer to you. They talk about that in the Straight Line Thinkers podcast where, hey, I'm looking for someone that's, boom, 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 boom. Do you know of anybody like that? And I think if you give people some specifics, it helps them memory jog a little bit and get into their own market for you. I also think anybody too. I don't know if you guys in your CRMs like tier your clients. It's something that I'm doing right now, where I've got like my A client, my double A, my triple A clients. I would go ahead and also do that for people that are in centers of influence, right? People that are influential people in the community that know a lot of people or can get connected with a lot of people. Those are excellent resources as well to constantly go back to, you know. So that's something else that I'm going to try to do ongoing here as well, is to get in some of those centers of influences to find more people to bring into business.
Anything else from you guys?
So, follow-on question on the demographics of your team. So when you get into, kind of the meat and potatoes of contacting your top 25, let's just say client focus for now, because obviously all your production, all your promotions up to this point have been, production driven based on the tap routing that you're talking about. What are you finding as you get into, the marketplaces of younger single people is it just been, an arduous process to get in and uncover like older, more retirement age people, or talk to us about kind of just what you've seen there in terms of the outcomes of, what your teammates are bringing to the table.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Ryan. Appreciate you asking that. So as part of our fast start process and what we do, okay, we have like an Excel or Google sheet that is going to be somebody's CRM in the beginning. We've got an automated top 25 and a raw mat and all that kind of stuff, and a goal tracker and pending business tracker and all that kind of stuff. So first thing I'm doing while someone's working on licensing or scripting and whatnot, I'm actually going to help them build out their top 25 list. So I'll sit down and say, hey, give me 50 names on your raw mat. Give me 100 names on your raw mat. Don't worry about or give me 100 qualified names. So I'll teach them the macho bad, the relationship hot
Mhm.
button matrix, all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And then in another meeting that we have, I'm actually going through and I'm building their top 25 with them. Hey, who's this person? Tell me about them. What are, I see their macho bad scores XYZ. Just tell me more about that. And that way, if you're working with a younger person, what you're going to find is, obviously, if you're in a younger market, you have less qualified people, but there's also a lot of qualified people that are there that might be on the chicken list. So they're there. So I'm actually the one that's qualifying the list with them. And then I'm going to order their top 5, their top 10. And I'm going to say, hey, I want you to run these first 5 or these first 10 with me because they're the most qualified. Market, you're going to want to have me with you to do this. You're going to want to save some of these less qualified people to go cut your teeth on when you're doing this on your own, right? It's better. It's better you learn on your buddy that works at Subway part time than on your uncle that's a doctor. Let's run that one together, right? And this is twofold. Number one, yes, they're going to get in front of the most qualified people, and they're going to have me there, so I can help control the point of contact. They're going to get the most experience out of that, all that kind of stuff. Number two, if someone runs 5 meetings and quits or 10 meetings and quits, I want those 5 or 10 meetings to be with people that I would want to work with. Again, going back to that best case, worst case scenario, and I hope I'm not. I don't want to sound like too brash when I say this, but also like that. A part of our system is you get in, you tap root, somebody quits, fine, the clients roll up to you. That just is what it is. And I would want to get into those. You want to get people into the field as fast as possible because number one, that's the greatest chance of them sticking. That's always the goal. But number two, at least you get some clients out of it that are more qualified.
So another comment I'd make for the group that I'm just feeling listening to Jack is, I think how long would you say you've had this higher level of activity with recruiting? Like you referenced that meeting you guys all did in the office where you kind of revamped the whole system. When was that again?
That was probably mid-February after convention, and I really ramped it up in March.
Okay, so this year.
Yeah.
Got it. I think that higher level activity has led to the refinement of your skills because you just had more at bats. You're on it more. You're not, none of us are going to be good when we do something every 6 weeks or every 3 months, like one time. Like if you're only recruiting somebody every other month, or even having a conversation, it's just not going to be very clear and smooth. And I think you guys have, I mean, you're already saying things like, hey, here's what we've discovered, here's what we've tweaked, here's what we've changed. And we've all done that on the client side of our business because our activity's been a lot higher, our exposure's been a lot higher. But to do that on the recruiting side, that's never been a strength of mine, and something we need to get better at for sure. But I think it's awesome stuff, and yeah, I really appreciate you hopping on here today. Anybody else have any questions as we're wrapping up here today? Well, Jack, any final thoughts for our group here? Any challenges or anything you want to put out there?
Yeah, I would just say that I think that you guys, I know your business is a little bit different than ours, but I think there's some similarities I can draw. I know you guys are very client focused. I know you guys are very balanced business from the standpoint of insurance. The IUL is not the tool that is used for every single financial situation ever, right? It's the full financial planner's business model, I would say, or whatever profession, financial professional, whatever wrapper you want to use, right? It's about serving the client first. And I think that's the harder part, really. I think that having like a really refined client process where you can get a lot of people that have a high level of production is the hardest part. All you got to do now, and this is what we said in that meeting, we just get more bodies in the door. Because like we went to a convention there, and Josh and somebody else like went up together. I can't remember what the guy's name was, but it's one of those guys that recruited like 50 people personally, and his team recruited 200 people or something like that. And we looked at it, and our office outproduced theirs. Our base shop was bigger. We had not even a tenth of the people, the licenses there. So we're sitting there like, wait a minute, we're better. I mean, not that it's a competition, but we're better than those guys. We got to figure this out. And I think that, again, you've got the hard part out of the way. It's just you got to practice plugging more people into that system. And I would just say, be bold, like that whole like making calls with people thing. I didn't do that in the beginning in March. That's been a recent thing over the past few months where I'm like, all right, I need to take the next step. I got to make these calls with them. I don't want to, but I'm going to, control the point of contact and just, again,
What does that look like when you're doing that? Because there's a few variations, are you basically having them introduce you and you say something, or are they just referencing that you're with them, or what?
and that's really not all I'm doing. So I've thought about doing that. Here's all I'm doing right now. It's working very, very well. Okay. We'll do this on Zoom or in person. They'll put themselves on speaker on Zoom, and the prospect doesn't even know that I'm there. I'm just sitting there taking notes on this person, and they're making the call. They're going through the script. If they get stuck in like the scheduling part, I might send them a text over Zoom, or I'll be with them. Hey, here's some dates that I can do it. So I'm helping them move through the script, or maybe they're saying something wrong. I can say like, don't say that, or I can kind of coach them a little bit through it, you know.
Yeah.
And at the end, I can go back in then and critique that. Hey, here's what you said. Let's try this again. Let's do it better this time. So I'm not doing it for them. I'm really just ensuring that it gets done, number one, and then giving them, adequate feedback to so they can do it better the next time. It's kind of like training someone through a presentation. But I can jump in and be the lifeline if it's absolutely needed. However, I'll typically sit back, take some notes, and make sure that I can help them improve. That's all I'm doing now. But I wouldn't be against introducing somebody. I just think it's a more natural conversation if I think about it. Of hey, I'm doing something. I don't know what your introductory script is, but the short Cliff Notes version of ours is I'm doing something new. I'm excited about it. I'm trying to get my name out there. I was wondering if you and your spouse would spend 45 minutes with me so I could share with you what I'm doing. And that way, now we're down the line, if you or anyone you know could use some help, I'm here as a resource. I think that conversation coming organically from that person is a little bit better than, hey, I'm working with this person and here's them, take over. And then now you're kind of doing like a pre-introduction on the phone. And I don't know.
I hear you. No, I hear you.
So,
And I
yeah.
think it depends on who you're talking to as well, in terms of who your trainee is and what their comfort level is, what their ability is, and all that. Yeah.
It all depends. And that's the importance, again, like controlling point of contact, qualifying their list with them, like going through who are we calling, tell me about them. Because there's some people that I've met with in the past. I'm like, oh, I wish I wouldn't I met with this person. I remember I trained one girl, and this, I'll just leave you guys with this. And I met with her parents, and that was great. And I think it was like the next meeting was like her brother-in-law or something like that. Like, oh yeah, he's a senior portfolio manager on Wall Street. We're meeting him in 5 minutes. And I'm like, that would be a good one to know. Thank you for preparing me for that. You know what I mean? Like that, if you can get into that list a little bit, you can kind of, hey, this is a good person we're going to get a result from. This maybe not so much, right? Or hey, I want to meet my grandparents. They're in their 90s and they're retired. Maybe we save that one for later. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to control that. That's your responsibility as a mentor to do that in the beginning.
I love it.
So
Well, really appreciate it, Jack. We may do this again at some point down the road because I know this was super valuable, but glad we got it recorded. And keep it up, man. You're doing awesome.
sounds good. You guys will be down in Dallas, right?
We are. Yep.
Awesome.
I'm not sure we're going to be driving a van down there, but we will be
Yeah,
there.
we're gonna do it again. We're driving again. So
That's
anyways,
awesome. Totally awesome. All right. Love it. We'll see you.
See you guys. Bye.
Thanks, Jack.